Wonderful. All right. So welcome to the 411 on Virtual Study Abroad and International Experiences session. My name is Yomari Castellano, and I am a Study Abroad Coordinator in the Center for International Education here at UWM, and we are so excited that you are here to help us kick off our inaugural Education Abroad Week. We have a week-long celebration of all things international, which include a 2-day virtual study abroad fair that is taking place tomorrow and Wednesday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Central Time. Visit our website, studyabroad.uwm, for more information. In today's session, we will be focusing on virtual global experiences and the benefits that come with these opportunities. As we are becoming a more digital, global world, having all these skills of how to navigate the digital space is crucial now more than ever. And how neat that UWM offers many opportunities for you all to choose from. And before we dive into the session, I'd like to share a few housekeeping items. We have Jill Keenan-Cry providing sign language interpreting services for our session. Please note that we are recording this session. If you don't feel comfortable with this, note that the recording will be available on our website later this week. Please be sure to stay muted unless you are speaking, just to ensure that the sound quality is good and that we can understand each other. And if you do have any questions, please, we hope that you have many of them. Be sure to type them into the chat box, and we'll be sure to address those as soon as we can. So now, without further ado, let's get started with our session. I'll let my fabulous co-presenters introduce themselves. Christine, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Wolf, and I'm the Assistant Director of Global and International Studies here at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And I'm excited to have all of you joining us so we can talk about all of the new and interesting things that you can take advantage of in the virtual space, whether it be study abroad or internships or both. So welcome.
Sophia?
I guess that's probably me. Hi, my name is Sophia Betcher. I am a global studies student on the global communications track, and I am also pursuing a minor in French. I'm a senior, so I should be graduating this spring, and I also work as part of our global studies team, actually. So I help out with administrative assisting and our social media campaigns.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandra Knudsen, or you can call me Alex. I am also a global studies major on the security track. I'm also a senior, and I'll be graduating next semester. And yeah, I'll be talking about my virtual experience on internship and things like that. So thanks for being here, everyone.
All right, thank you all so much. And now, an international education update. So we do have several updates for you about the current status of international education. One thing to know is that while study abroad programs that require travel, as well as international internships, are on pause at this time due to COVID-19, students can still partake in virtual global opportunities, right? Also know that just because you can't physically travel right now, it doesn't mean that you can't start planning for your study abroad and international internship adventures, but also to really consider virtual opportunities, virtual programs. And plus, it's never too early to plan for these amazing international experiences. One thing that I also would like to say is that while this pandemic has made us as education abroad professionals rethink global education over the past months, we've never, ever wavered in our belief in the positive impact of a global experience. You know, the wonderful outcome of this is that you have lots of exciting virtual and internship opportunities to choose from literally all over the world. The opportunities are endless. And just want you to know that we wholeheartedly believe that virtual study environments will set you up for success in the global online world that awaits you upon graduation. And to that end, I just want to add that we are truly honored, and I know Christine could speak on this as well, just to be part of your personal growth, academic progress, and career development. And we're just really excited to continue on this journey with you, whether it's with an on-site or virtual international experience. What are virtual opportunities? So here's really what you need to know. A virtual study abroad is an online experience that connects you with international opportunities and just really infuses your educational experience with a global foundation. Just as in traditional study abroad program, you take courses from instructors who are experts in the field and often are on the ground in the location which you're learning about. So you may even have the opportunity to learn about it as well as like travel to multiple locations. And so we do know and are fully aware that virtual travel cannot replace boots on the ground exploration, but it just really doesn't have to, right? Rather, virtual study abroad provides another option to consider and can be a functional alternative for students who might have thought that study abroad was just really wasn't in the cards. Perhaps a student does an online program next spring and save the money that they would have spent on that particular program for a post-grad gap year that they'll take in the future. Or a student who doesn't let our current, pandemic situation keep them from making a difference. For example, in a nonprofit organization located halfway across the world. Again, there's so many options and opportunities for you to choose from. And one thing that I would like to point out too is that, as you can see, a virtual format comes in many different ways. So there are different approaches to virtual study abroad, which means that you have the opportunity to find a program that's a good fit for you. And then lastly, I just wanted to add that you can earn UWM elective credits from virtual global study and internship programs, specifically for those facilitated by study abroad program providers, which UWM has a formal affiliation agreement with, which I think is amazing. So these are companies that offer academic programs like all over the world, whether on site or in the virtual space, which are traditionally designed with like cultural activities that are incorporated into the classes, excursions, internship placement, and more. So for example, you can take 4 UWM classes next semester and then supplement it with an international internship experience. Or you can take, let's say, for example, 3 UWM classes and then 1 particular, virtual international course. So as you can see, you can pick and choose and design your term, your virtual term as however works for your schedule. And last but not least, you can use financial aid to pay for your virtual global experience, whether study and or credit-bearing internship, just like in the traditional study abroad setting. So just encourage you to visit our website. It's studyabroad.uwm.edu for a list of program providers and amazing education opportunities all over the world. And now my colleague Christine will talk about virtual international internship experiences.
Okay, so moving on to internships, which you can incidentally do while you're studying abroad or at a separate time and in a separate location. So just know that you can customize these virtual experiences in any way that makes sense for you. And just like study abroad, the formats of virtual programs for internships also vary. So one way that students in my program, Global Studies, and also international studies students too, find internships is through their own networking connections. So some of the tips I'd like to share with you today include things like don't discount, who your uncle works with, who lives next door or across the street. Be talking to people often about what you're trying to do and the internship that you're trying to find. You never know who might end up being a great networking connection for you, and that you might just be able to find an internship easier than you think. Another way that students commonly find internships now at UWM is paying a placement provider, like Yomari just talked about. One thing I want to draw to your attention is that one of the articulation agreements we have is with a placement company called the Intern Group. You can look them up online with a simple Google search. Any UWM student who does an internship with them, whether it be on site or virtually, is eligible for a $200 discount. So I want to make you aware of that opportunity and tell your friends, because it's not just exclusive to global or international studies students. So we would love to have more students in more majors pursuing internationally themed internships. Students may also work solo or with a cohort team through a provider. This tip is really around knowing what questions to ask. If you feel maybe a little bit intimidated by having a global internship experience, whether it be online or in person, and you would really feel like you get more out of it if you were to do it with a team or a small group of students, look for programs that offer that as an option, or come to the study abroad office or to me, and we can talk about what we know about different providers and programs that would provide you with that option. Hybrid forms, some students, like we had a student this summer in the Global 489 International Internships class, do an internship locally in Milwaukee. And she did some of the internship in person at an office despite COVID, and then some of the work remotely. This is another option that may be open to you, particularly obviously if you have an internship locally. So think about, what combination of work styles would be most interesting to you. Sometimes students really want to add that virtual piece because, of course, they want to gain remote work experience, use the technology, learn how to use it better. Because we know moving forward, technology is here to stay. And whether we're in the midst of a global pandemic or not, we're all going to have opportunities to work remotely. So it's just something to keep in mind. Foreign language. So whether you're doing an internship locally or virtually, think about how you want to incorporate your foreign language skills into that experience. All students in the Global Studies program, for example, are studying a foreign language as a part of their program requirements. International studies students are also studying language to a lesser extent. And then there are many students on campus, obviously language majors, but in other fields as well, who recognize the value and the importance of adding a foreign language to their skill set. An internship is an amazing way to practice those foreign language skills. We will have students talking in just a moment about how they may have incorporated foreign language into their virtual internships, and give you some ideas about, again, what kinds of questions to ask when you're trying to come up with the best internship that's really going to develop your skills and take you to that next level. And finally, to kind of piggyback on what Yomari said about academic credit, students in the Global Studies program have to do an internship. And so we have a course within the program, again, called Global 489 International Internships, where they receive typically 3 credits for completing their internship. It's an entire course that goes with that, a syllabus, a whole course on Canvas with activities, videos, discussion groups, and so forth. And depending on what your major is, who's in our audience today, there may be other options for you to complete an internship for credit, if not paying a provider to do so. If you do go with a provider, sometimes you can opt in to completing your internship for academic credit through a course that that provider is offering you. So when you're looking around, you can see there's a lot of different ways to organize an internship. And for some of you, gaining academic credit may not be necessary for your major or something that you want to do. Either way, I encourage you to add this professional experience to your resume while you're in college, because it does open up doors for you, or will open up doors for you. And it really makes you stand out as somebody who was really thinking ahead for developing their early career life. Thanks.
Thank you, Christina. A couple of things that I just wanted to share. So when you do go the provider route, yes, you do pay a fee, but that fee includes so much. So for example, if you're interested in doing an internship, let's say, for example, in Spain, let's use Spain because I studied in Spain. Um, and you're a specific major, you're a business major, they will work with you to find a program in Spain that specifically meets your professional needs. Not only that, but they'll also work with you on, coaching you before you even start your international internship experience. They will teach you all of like the cultural professional nuances that you should keep in mind when working with people in that particular country, and so much more. I know that with some of our providers that we work with, they do like weekly meetings with the students checking in. So you have a ton of support for your internship experience. And that fee that you pay also includes your credits, assuming that you're taking the internship for credit.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to highlight that. So you do get a lot of like support, a lot of guidance, and you don't have to pay UWM tuition in addition to that, just FYI. I just wanted to, before we go ahead, I wanted to quickly address a question that a student asked. Does that mean virtual classes can count as both GS electives and the GS 12 credit broad requirement? One thing that I want you all to know is that when it comes to UWM elective credits, we do have a process in place called course equivalency approval form process, where students can lobby to earn exact course equivalencies for credits for classes that they took abroad. And so these classes, then these credits will go ahead and fulfill a specific degree requirement. So, which I think is a really neat thing, and that's available for our students.
Yeah, and I can answer Grace's question too. Yes, it does mean that you can double count those credits that way. So if you're a global studies student, as you know, you have this degree requirement which calls for a certain amount of credits abroad. Those credits can double count to complete both that experiential abroad requirement and elective credits. You just need to meet with your academic advisor, and then you'll work with me on getting all of those courses in that double count situation. So yeah, you can.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to the next section. I think we got another question. So when you study abroad, you do not need to pay the UWM semester tuition in addition. So we have two types of study abroad programs in terms of like financials, right? So if you participate, let's say in an exchange program, you pay UWM tuition here based on residency, and room and board you pay abroad. When you participate in like a study abroad program, which generally when you work with a provider, you're paying for a comprehensive fee that includes your academics, it includes housing, etc. So there you pay a program fee. So what I said earlier is that you don't have to pay that fee and on top of that tuition. I hope that makes sense. I do encourage you to attend. We have a session this Thursday at, I have to double check the time, so I don't want to give you the wrong time. I believe it's at noon, where my colleague Ramona Washington goes over just all the details about study abroad, what exchanges are versus study abroads and things like that. So I encourage you to attend. So thank you so much for that question. All right, I want to quickly go ahead. And now we're going to move forward to student experiences. I would like to play a video from Ananda Walker. She is a global studies major and completed a virtual internship with SIA. It's an organization in Mali, Africa. And here's her video.
Hello, my name is Ananda Walker, and during the summer of 2020, I participated in a virtual internship through United Planet. They paired me with an organization in Mali, Africa called SIA. SIA stands for International Solidarity for Africa. Their mission is to empower vulnerable Malian communities through grassroots action. The organization was formed in 2004 with the determination to impact Malian communities. To further empower the communities it serves, SIA's core principle is community participation and engagement in the implementation of its projects, identifying needs, decision-making, conceptualizing projects, and their implementation. SIA incorporates this participatory approach in all its projects. SIA is registered as a non-governmental organization in Mali and is recognized as a nonprofit by the United Nations. My tasks while working with SIA were to raise funds for their projects and raise awareness of the organization in America. The first project to achieve these goals was to create a website in English. I worked on this project with another intern, Ashley. Ashley translated their French website into English and gave it a fresh new look using the Wix platform. During my second month as an intern, I started a fundraiser through GoFundMe to raise $1,000 for the organization. I then helped SIA establish a new membership program for Americans. This involved negotiating a new pricing structure for memberships, finding the right program to handle recurring subscription payments, and payment transfers in Mali. My final project with SIA was creating a monthly or quarterly newsletter for their members. I knew that my internship was coming to an end soon, and I wanted to leave them with something tangible for the future. With this in mind, I created a newsletter template that can be used over and over again by just filling in the form with the current information. I put together the first newsletter using MailChimp and provided them with instructional YouTube videos on how to use the program. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work with SIA, and I hope the work we did together continues to support their mission. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I'm just feeling so inspired after that, watching that video. I mean, just to think all of the amazing work that we can do, that you all can do from the comfort of your own home. I think it's just, okay, I'm really moved right now, but I'll let Christine take over.
Thanks, Yomari. I think that really speaks to the impact and the meatiness, the richness that can come with a virtual experience. So now we'd actually like to hand it over to some of your peers. We have two of your classmates with us today, Sophia Betcher and Alex Knudsen, who, as they introduced themselves earlier, both happen to be global studies majors. And they're going to talk about their virtual experiences and give you some firsthand accounts of what you might expect when having a similar experience. So, Sophia, would you like to go first?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Sophia. I had a pretty unique experience, both with a virtual study abroad experience and also a virtual internship experience, because I actually started off studying abroad in person in France this spring semester. And then, as we all know, we had a bit of an unanticipated pandemic hit. So my in-person study abroad experience turned into a virtual experience. And that transition was one that, luckily, I don't think the rest of you will have to deal with, just because you will be able to plan if you would actually like to engage in it virtually for the entire time. But I think it was a really great learning experience, and it helped me learn how to adapt to the virtual courses in real time, just like we were all, or you guys are all doing here at UWM. And I think it was one of those experiences that everyone was just kind of figuring it out together as we went along. And it was really interesting seeing how my courses that had previously been in person in France with French professors, and having that classroom setting there, which is a bit different from my courses here at UWM. Typically, it's longer class times. Your interactions with them are a little bit different. How that would translate into a virtual workspace. But I think that was a really good learning experience. And I think it's one of those things that if you do decide to pursue a virtual study abroad experience, go into it with an open mind. And I think you can really get a lot out of it. And I then also completed a virtual internship this summer. I was originally going to be doing an in-person internship in Ireland this summer through a study abroad provider called Eli Abroad, which is a paid provider. But we ended up finding out, I think it was around April, that UWM had to put a pause on student travel. So canceled that one, got refunded, which, just letting you know, that's usually an option. If you feel like you paid for a provider and then it's not working out, you can pursue that. You probably won't get stuck paying for it, so no worries about that. And then I actually, through some help from Christine and just from our Global Studies department, I looked into other opportunities with other providers for virtual internships that were going to be offered during the summer. It was kind of a unique situation just because it was happening in late spring, and a lot of providers that weren't initially going to be offering virtual internships they transitioned to doing that instead of what were originally going to be their in-person internship options. So I got onto that as quickly as I could, and I found a provider called the European Study Abroad Center that was actually really, really kind, and they were doing a set amount of placements. I think it was 10 or 15 for free. So they sent out an email and said, for students who have had their internship experience, changed or had to be canceled, email us, let us know about your situation. We're trying to do some free placements just to help people get a new internship opportunity. So I jumped on that, and they were really helpful, and they found me an internship placement virtually in Prague for the summer. It was in English. I do not speak Czech, but it was a really interesting opportunity. I worked for it's a ski tourism company that's based in Prague, but actually they do most of their programs in Japan and Norway. They lead ski and sail expeditions for people who are into free skiing. I didn't know much about free skiing when I started working for them, but I got to learn all about it. It's very interesting. I would suggest watching some documentaries on it. So that was a really unique experience, and I had a very good time with them. It was pretty relaxed structure, which it was a learning curve for sure. I think me and my bosses both, they hadn't anticipated having a virtual intern for the summer. I hadn't anticipated being a virtual intern for the summer. So we worked together, and we figured out a system that worked well for us. And I think it's really just goes to show that when everybody's willing to, kind of adapt and overcome, you can make some really great things happen. I think that's it for me.
Thanks so much, Sophia. I'd like you to speak just a second to what were your major challenges in the virtual space what's your gut reaction to that question?
I'd say major challenges were definitely probably figuring out a system for how to best maintain contact with my bosses in my internship experience, only since they were working in a different time zone and they had not necessarily planned to have my intern position as part of their team for the summer. We kind of were figuring out in real time, okay, what tasks do they have for me to work on? How can they give me stuff to work on that's also, not getting in the way for them getting their own work done. So that was, I think, a challenge at first that we addressed over time. So it was mainly working independently that at first was a little difficult, but I think once I got used to it, it was actually a really good experience for me.
Sure. And when you think about the whole experience, what would you say surprised you the most about it, maybe in a good way?
One surprise that I actually realized I really ended up enjoying is just, everybody talks about the flexibility you get from working virtually, but I saw it in real time when I was doing it. It's really nice actually working from your own home, setting your own schedule, finding your own spaces that you feel comfortable working in, figuring out what's, how do I be the most productive? I actually figured out working outside was great for me. And, that's something I would never get to do if I was working in person in a cubicle and stuff. So finding those parts of the experience that are kind of specific and special to it being virtual that are an upside, I think is really important.
Yeah, I've enjoyed working outside some myself this summer, so I can completely relate to that as being a bonus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what advice do you have for other students at UW?
I think my main advice. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. A little bit of a
No,
delay.
it's okay. Virtual experiences, yeah.
Exactly. My main advice would just be figuring out what your best work setting is and how you can stay the most productive, figuring out what kind of schedule works best for you, what work environment you like. It's really, I think, one of the most important parts of my internship experience was the fact that I was taking our Global 489 class alongside it. We had a lot of journaling assignments that really helped you reflect on the experience and what you were getting out of it, and helped me to kind of set some goals and just be very mindful of the experience as it was happening. And that really helped me to like be like, okay, what's working for me this week? You know, like, what did I notice that helped me get more work done? What do I feel like I need to change? So being mindful about your experience and kind of just staying in tune with yourself, I think, is probably the key to success.
That's actually really great feedback. Thank you. And finally, so for the students who are listening today or who may watch this recording in the future and who are still on the fence about virtual experiences, what would you say to those students why they should give a virtual internship or study abroad experience a try?
My favorite question. I feel you guys very strongly about being on the fence about it. It's a very new concept, I think, to a lot of us. But it just goes back to, you know, our world is changing a lot right now, and we all have to, you know, kind of adapt and roll with the changes. And, you know, maybe we have to change our expectations of our experiences a little bit. I'd say, speaking from my personal experience, my semester in France was not exactly what I thought it was going to be. However, I think if you take the approach of being like, okay, maybe this is different from what I was expecting, but I can still get something out of this and find a way to make this its own unique experience that I value in a different way. I think that's really the key to, you know, finding the value in these virtual experiences.
Thanks so much, Sophia, for sharing your thoughts. It's really helpful. Alex, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your virtual experience.
Yeah, so I'm Alex again. So I'm on the security track, and I also had a very interesting experience. Mine actually started last fall. I had applied for the State Department in like student summer internship, which Christine has probably been sending out like the virtual applications for. So it's the same idea, but mine would have been in person. And I applied to work at the U.S. consulate in Milan, Italy. I'm also a double major in Italian studies. I didn't mention that earlier, but I am now. So I was accepted into that program and was waiting for my security clearance this January. And by April, that was when they announced that they were canceling the program again because of COVID. And unfortunately, they weren't deferring the position. Because like I said, I've been accepted. I just needed a security clearance. That was really heartbreaking for me because I had worked so hard and long for it. And then I also was doing this fall semester abroad in Florence, Italy. So I would have been gone for 7 months of this year. And again, unfortunately, it was all canceled. So I knew this summer I wanted to still be doing something, so I was looking again for virtual internships, and I actually used my personal network. One of my dad's friends, he has a startup company called Five Forks, which is what I did my internship with. My dad works in government, and that's something that I want to do as a security track. So I was able, again, use your personal network. It is something you can do and get experiences out of. So I did a 7.5, 8 week internship, and I was home in Chicago this whole time, as you see in the picture. And luckily, I know Brandon, who was my supervisor, so we knew each other very well and were able to really come to an agreement on how things would be, because they're also still, you know, figuring out how they want their company to work. So my job was research assistant or research intern. And what Five Forks does is they help other companies, other startups get in contracts with the government. And they are working right now with a lot of small startup companies. Some of them are based in Chicago, but their biggest client right now is DT Global. And DT Global is a international development firm that works with USAID, if you're familiar with any of those. Those are kind of the bigger names, in my opinion. So as a research intern, I spent a lot of time researching, of course, how DT Global was getting their contract set up and like general research on contracting. And then I also helped Five Forks find companies. So I spent a lot of time, researching, small companies, finding out what their, market was, and then sending that to my supervisors. And then from there, they would reach out. So I helped in the process of gaining a couple clients, which was really cool, and writing investor notes. So part of that experience was really cool for me, was to actually research these companies and, tell them that, like, look, what you're doing is really beneficial to the government. And this is how, you could get into this field or get into these contracts and things like that. So that was really cool. And now I'm actually still with Five Forks. I'm now a research associate with the company. And we're hoping to set up something with the Global Studies program. If this is an internship you're interested in, they actually just recently leased out an office space. So there is a possibility to do some in-person things, which I kind of hoped was available while I was interning. Because I would have liked to, been in and out of my room and out of the house, things like that. So that was my experience. And then actually, to touch on something Amari had mentioned earlier, I am also doing a virtual study abroad this semester. So I'm doing a hybrid. I'm taking 3 classes at UWM. And then later this month, I'll be starting 2 classes based in Costa Rica. And so you are able to mix the classes together, whether it is, locally with UWM and then abroad as well. So I haven't started that yet. So if you want an update, come back in a couple months and I can let you guys know about that. So, yeah.
That's so exciting, Alex. Thank you so much. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about when you think about your internship experience that you just had this summer with Five Forks. What would you say was the most challenging part about that being online?
For me, I think because I personally knew who I was working with, it was definitely hard to not see them in person. And that's, of course, going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for any virtual experience, is having that in-person contact. Of course, we worked a lot on like Google Hangouts. We had weekly calls scheduled, group chats and things like that. But that was a big challenge for me to not be able to be like, hey, Brandon, let's meet up, or something like that. But you definitely make it work. And that's usually the big thing. And again, it's all about adaptability. So for me personally, it was that, missed in-person connection, especially with communication. If certain issues I was having, I couldn't convey in the best way possible because I was typing it out in an email rather than having him in person and being like, hey, look, this is something that I'm struggling with, and to be able to show him. So that was a big thing.
Yeah, and I think, employers and interns moving forward now, as we do more and more in the virtual space, are going to have looking at ways to communicate, and also different ways to make networking, a possibility for interns. So you're not just working, with 1 or 2 people virtually, but that you have access to more people in the company as you would if you were working in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about when you think about what surprised you about this internship? What comes to mind?
For me personally, I was surprised, and this is kind of like an after fact, was I decided to go to grad school during this internship. I had never thought about it before, and it's definitely like, through my research as like international development and all this stuff, I was like, man, like, okay, this is really what I want to be doing. And then through the process, I was looking into graduate programs, and I found one at DePaul University here in Chicago, and it's applied diplomacy. And my concentration would be diplomacy and migration. So I definitely think that surprised me, like figuring out the things that come out afterwards. Like, it's not necessarily a specific skill, but it's something that's going to be continuing my global studies journey, right? And that was surprised me most because, like I said, I had never really thought of grad school before. I was like, you know what, I think I'll stop with the bachelor's and just figure it out as I go on. But now knowing my next steps, because I graduate next semester, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So that was a big shock to me to be like, okay, like I have this now, so.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe you'll get an opportunity then to study abroad when you're in graduate school, right?
Yeah, it is part of the program actually, which was really nice to see. And I had already spoken to some advisors, and I told them that I was a double major in Italian studies, and so they were like, "Oh, you're already like way ahead of the game right now." I was like, "Oh, perfect. This is awesome." So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to, and that is part of the plan because I had studied abroad like last summer, and that was just a month program, and then having expected to be there for longer this year,
Yeah.
it's definitely also like in the books, like, okay, I'm going back, sometime.
So, given all of this, what advice do you have for students who are going to have virtual experiences?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is going in with an open mind. I mean, definitely, like it's been mentioned before, being virtual is definitely not the same as, the in-person experiences. But I think if you go in, like I said, with an open mind, just let's go in and get this done and put the work in, you're going to realize, the skills that you gain from this are going to be even more beneficial to you when you do end up in that in-person environment. So understanding, like once you understand, like what I'm learning from this is going to benefit me in the future and may, give you an advantage when you are looking for jobs. They see, you still were working in a global pandemic and you made that work out. I personally think that would put someone ahead of the game. So just, yeah, don't think of it as a setback. Think of it as, it's gonna set you forward one day.
Thanks so much. I think that's a perfect note to end it on. Yomari, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex and Sophia. You shared so much wisdom and totally inspiring me to sign up for an international internship experience. But I just wanted to add that, you all kept saying, oh, well, you should be flexible and just kind of go with the flow. And it's the same advice that we tell students with they go on a traditional study abroad or international internship experience. You just really have to be always so flexible and just be open for whatever comes your way, right? So thank you both so much for your wonderful wisdom that you share with us. Okay, so now just like highlighting the benefits of a virtual experience. Basically, just the ability to be able to foster a global and cross-cultural engagement with folks all over the world in an academic and professional virtual setting from the comfort of your own home is absolutely amazing. As I mentioned earlier, as a student, you have to really think about what you can do while at UWM to help you stand out. So not only to say, yes, I had a virtual study experience, but it was an international experience as well as an internship. So, give yourself, that opportunity. Let's see what else. Just, one more thing that I wanted to highlight is the fact that virtual experiences are definitely a lot more affordable than the traditional study abroad experiences where, for example, you have to pay for your plane ticket, you have to pay for housing and country transportation, daily miscellaneous expenses, etc. So, keep that in mind. And also above all, is that these opportunities are so accessible, which I believe is a beautiful thing. So students of all walks of life, all backgrounds, all abilities can certainly participate in. And I wanted to quickly turn it back to our panelists. Are there any additional benefits worth mentioning?
I think you honestly just highlighted it really well, is the fact that I think it's a lot more flexible and affordable for a lot of students. So I think the virtual aspect really makes things a bit more accessible, and that's not something to overlook.
Thank you. Alex, do you have anything else you would like to add? I know that you've shared already so much, but just wondering if you had more.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll just kind of reiterate like what I had said. Like it definitely is a benefit like in the future. You got to think ahead. And all of these things mentioned and what Sophia just mentioned too, like those are all gonna be added to your plate, right?
Wonderful. Thank you both. All right. now moving on to, okay, all these opportunities sound so great. How do I get started? Well, obviously making sure that you fit in an international education experience and start planning your adventure. First things first, meet with your academic advisor and discuss, study abroad timing and academic planning. Perhaps you're also thinking about an internship. So discussing when is the best time for you to fit that into your time here at UWM. Perhaps you want to identify courses that may be equivalent to UWM. There's information on our website about our course equivalency approval form process. Again, in short, it's the ability for you to lobby to have a class abroad. Just substitute one that is required for your degree program, whether your major or your minor, which again, I think is awesome. If you're a global studies and international studies student, make sure that you meet with Christine Wolf to discuss your international experiences. We encourage you to explore study abroad and internship programs offered by UWM partners by visiting our website, which is studyabroad.uwm.edu. This goes without saying, making sure that you keep your GPA high. Each program has their own different GPA requirements. Generally, they can start at 2.5 GPA, but if your GPA is a little bit lower than that, don't worry, contact us and we'll be sure to work with you to find a program that you can certainly qualify for and go ahead and apply. Attend a virtual Financing Study Abroad 101 info session just to learn how financial aid works in terms of paying for study abroad. There are scholarships out there as well as other different funding opportunities. So attend one of those sessions to learn more about what is available to you. You can start your scholarship search on our website and of course branch out. And also be sure to check out the UWM scholarship portal for more information. And just really quickly on a personal note, I just know that finances is a major concern for many of our students. And for me, as someone who's a first generation college student who came from a low income household, I wasn't, going to let any of those things get in the way of pursuing a study abroad experience, which I did a whole semester in Spain. So researching the funding opportunities was key for me, meeting with a financial aid advisor, which you certainly can do. The best piece of advice that I can give you is just as with anything in life, if there's something you want to pursue, search the opportunity through, and then make an informed decision. Because sometimes I often find that students, they are the ones who set these unnecessary hurdles in front of them, in front of themselves without, having all of the facts. So definitely encourage you to look at all of these opportunities and then go from there. And then ask yourself 2 questions. Why not you? Why not now? Always. So I would say don't limit yourself. And last but not least, check out the Global Studies Internship Photo Gallery. Christine, would you please talk a little bit about this gallery?
Yeah, sure. In the couple minutes we have left, one thing that Global Studies has been doing for the last couple of years is going out and doing internship site development for the students in the Global Studies degree program. And so on our website, right on the homepage, there's a link to our photo gallery, which is sort of a chronicle in photos of my journeys. And so you'll find photos and information about internship sites in Ghana, in Tokyo, Japan, and also in Quito, Ecuador, and the Galapagos Islands. So when we go out and we do these site visits, what we're doing is we're looking to develop sites that relate to the 5 tracks in the Global Studies program. So obviously in the Galapagos, for example, there were several sites that had to do with sustainability. In Quito, Ecuador, I was working on a lot of sites that had to do or related to health. So no matter what track you're on, we're busy always trying to develop sites around the world and in different languages that will be interesting to you as a global studies major. We are obviously on a suspended period of doing that site development, but virtual experiences, as we've just gone over, are just as relevant and unique in their own way. So some of these experiences that I've developed in person may lead us to some online experiences too, virtually. Even if some of these aren't transferable in that way, there are a list of different providers and options on the Global Studies website, particularly pertaining to virtual internships. So please check it out.
Thank you so much. And then, as you mentioned, we also on the Study Abroad website have a list of lots of study and virtual opportunities. Sorry, study abroad and international virtual opportunities. So come and check us out. All right, so just a reminder of Education Abroad Week happening this week. Thank you so much for helping us kick off this amazing week. We're so excited. We'll have our fair tomorrow on Wednesday and other information sessions, so be sure to check us out. And last but not least, making sure that you stay in touch with us. We do hold virtual advising appointments. So if you want to learn more about, study abroad and international experiences, just be sure to call our office and or email us to schedule an appointment with us, and we'll be more than happy to talk about options with you. And then also make sure you stay connected to us via social media. We're really active. We post a lot of events and things like that we have going on. So be sure to stay in touch. And any questions? Any more questions or anything else you want to share, Christine or Alex?
No, we'd be happy to take any questions from people listening in on the call today. So please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we'd be happy to answer anything that we can, or type your question in the chat box.
Yeah, I think there was a question asked in the chat. I think asking about how the criteria getting our internship and how it's approved, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, please go ahead and address that.
So, I mean, depending on your track, of course, you want to do an internship based on that. So for mine with security, and then of course within the tracks, like there's different concentrations, if you will. So for me in security, I personally focused a lot on like international development, immigration, migration issues, and things like that. So like I said, in my internship, I did international development research, and then I also was able to do on the side research of immigration patterns, like in Italy and Ethiopia, or like kind of Africa into the Mediterranean, which I've done previous research before. And that was, like I said, a side project because DT Global wanted to see if they could find more projects to develop there. So that was a side note. But because it related to my track, you got to talk to Christine and just kind of like get it approved, basically. So once you find something within your track that you think is interesting and you can relate it, you just got to get it approved by Christine before you do all of that. So that was my process. If that answers the question, I think that was it.
And I see that there's another question. When is the best time to study abroad / do internships in college? I personally think the best way is to connect with your academic advisor and discuss your degree program and figure out when is the best time for you to fit in those experiences. I mean, they're the experts in your degree program, so that they're able to tell you when is the best time to do your study abroad or internship experience. And someone else asked specifically about information for the Galapagos Islands opportunity. Has that one been established yet, Christine? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, actually, it has. It's a program that I visited through a program provider called Projects Abroad. They have different offices in the U.S., but the one I was working with was based in San Diego. And through a contact there, I was able to connect with the director of Galapagos projects, and I can absolutely speak to that to you, Grace, in an email or in a meeting, but we don't have enough time now to kind of go through that. But basically, it would be going through a paid provider to an internship program that I have had a site visit to and vetted, and I really, really recommend it. So I'd be happy to talk to you more about it. Any other questions? I'm not sure if we've lost Yomari or not, or if you can hear me, but if not, thank you so much for joining us today. Please get in contact with us. We would be more than happy to answer your questions and have a follow-up appointment to discuss any of the topics that we went over today. Thank you so much. Bye.